Spinning. There we go. Hey everyone, welcome to the FemCity Monday Business class. We are excited for the topic today because I feel like we haven't talked about this in quite a while. I feel like we haven't had a class on this, so I'm really excited about it. Our topic today, by the way, I'm Lynn Pilzer, the COO at FemCity, and every Monday we do a business class, and so they're really great. If you're looking for more of them, go into our library on the website so you can look at them as well. Today's topic is Connect to Convert, how to write for your audience. And so we have an expert with us, a teacher. She is a FemCity Founding Circle member, Parrish Wilson. She is a writer and a coach, so there is no one better to be telling you about this topic today. We're really, really happy to have you. Thank you for joining us today and teaching this class, Parrish.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm so happy you're here. I'm gonna remove myself and I'm gonna click on your slides and turn it over to you. So thank you so much.
Great.
I'll keep an eye on any comments that we have as well.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, I'm very happy to be here today and teaching all of you a little bit about writing. And as you'll see as we go through this, what we're going to talk about today are a lot of more of the mechanics of writing, although I don't want that word to make anybody feel nervous because it's still a pretty open, expressive type of writing. But when we're writing for our audience, we actually have to sit down and get words on the page. And sometimes that is difficult. So that's what we're going to look at today. Yep. All right. So this is me. I've spent my career living, working, and writing in and around the world of mental health. I've used writing significantly to help my own mental health journey and process. For many years, I was undiagnosed or misdiagnosed, and it was only in the last sort of 5 to 6 years that I had proper diagnoses of ADHD and PMDD, sort of making everything make sense finally. And in and within that, I've been helping women write since 2013. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how that got started in just a moment. I also have a master's in counseling and spirituality, where my master's research explored specifically how autobiographical writing can heal trauma. And I have a graduate certificate in creative writing. I do have a couple of pieces published in anthologies there, and am currently writing a funny feminist dating memoir, which is a blast to write. But how did I get here? How did I move from working in the world of mental health to working in the world of writing? Well, when my second son was born and I was at home with a newborn and a 2.5-year-old, life got pretty tough. We have learned since then that both my boys are autistic and that my older boy has Crohn's disease, but way back then, we had no idea. So we had a very difficult household. And I was dealing with my own postpartum mental health issues. And I couldn't change my life, couldn't change my kids, couldn't change myself. But what I could do was write. And so I started writing. I started a blog called Mama Truths. This was back in 2013. And I started to write about what the realities were about my life as a mom in a very honest way, often in a humorous way, trying to find the humor in it. And it was incredible the response that I got from other mothers out there who would write to me and express such gratitude for me sharing what was truly happening in my home instead of sugarcoating it all and making it Instagram perfect. Although I don't even know if we had Instagram back then. I guess we probably did. And it really touched me to realize that I was touching other people with my writing, that we were building this connection through my willingness to be authentic. From there, that's where my writing support career started. And I realized that I could help other women write in a way that was more true to them so that they would be able to make better connections with their audience, whether they're writing creatively or writing for their business as we are doing here. So, when we're going to write to our audience, the most important thing is that we connect with them. How do we connect with people? And you can think about, like, when we want to think, how do I connect with my audience? It's like the same sort of stuff of how do we connect with other people? We know storytelling is a huge component of connection, and we now hear that, in lots of spaces in terms of social media, content strategy, all of this. Like, storytelling is so powerful because it lets people in to what's really happening, right? And they have their story, we have our story. There's connection through storytelling. And one, actually, I will add this in, and I still have to source this, but I read it in a very reliable book. I read it in Mary Carr's The Art of Memoir. And she states there that actually, when we are storytelling, so when we are telling each other, the honest truth of what's happening, oxytocin is being uh, released in our body. This is the same chemical that is released when we're breastfeeding and we're connecting with our baby. So that same chemical releases in the storytelling process, which is why it's so powerful. The other points that I have on here, work with story and in and out, but humor is a wonderful way to connect with people. Playfulness is a wonderful way to connect, and true emotion. It's interesting because both humor and play, when done in a really beautiful way, it's like our ego kind of falls away, right? And all that is left there is our authentic self. Now to write, to write and to do all those things, to storytell and use humor, we need to have our natural writing voice. And the most important thing about your natural writing voice is that it sounds like your everyday voice, that somebody will read your email that you send them. And then when they jump on a discovery call with you, it's the same person, it's the same tone, it's the same type of vocabulary. They're not getting some like, oh, you wrote me this really nice thing, but now you're kind of different. Um, so our natural voice is really important when we're writing with the intention to connect. Ways that we can practice that, and we will do a little bit of practicing that today, but other ways that you can practice it on your own, journaling. Journaling is a really beautiful way to practice and figure out what your natural writing voice sounds like. Also, playful writing, writing that you don't plan to send anywhere, um, writing that's just for yourself. That's a really beautiful way to explore what it sounds like to be you on the page. And of course, storytelling again, and that will come up over and over because it's so important. Storytelling is a wonderful way to find our voice when we're telling the stories that are true to us. Okay, so this is a little bit of the mechanics, and these are my editing tips, and these are really crucial and can truly change your writing experience. The first one is actually a no editing tip, which is write your first draft without stopping to make edits. Don't change that spelling mistake. Don't worry about the sentence structure, the run on sentence, whatever. Write as best you can from start to finish without stopping. If it's a blog post, if it's an email, if it's a longer form piece, try to get that whole idea out before you stop yourself and start to criticize, because that's often what we're doing when we're editing. This allows us to stay in the zone of writing, um, maybe even finding some flow in our writing experience, and to not have that interrupted. The reader can tell when we write like half of a newsletter one day and half of it the next day, because we've changed a little bit in that time, and you can sense that sort of bump. Now, we also can't always write everything the same day, um, but our next wonderful editing tips will help us with that. So when you read your piece, to edit it, read it out loud. There is no better way to make sure the piece is coherent and fluid, to make sure that your writing voice is consistent throughout, and to make sure that the flow of the piece, the cadence, uh, how you just go from one paragraph to another, to make sure that each of those are happening with as much ease as possible for the reader. And I will say sometimes I can get kind of tough on myself, and with something sort of the size of a blog post or an email newsletter, I sometimes, not always, because we also have to avoid perfection. Um, but sometimes I won't publish it until I can read the whole piece start to finish without stopping to make an edit, without feeling like I need to make a change. And that's when I know it's really got the flow and the sound and the tone that I'm looking for. The next one, print and edit by hand, is super powerful. It's very different when we're sitting at our desk in front of our laptop versus when we print off that piece and go sit down in our cozy chair with a pen and maybe a cup of tea and curl up and edit there. It gives, well, I think it gives a bit of a softness. Um, and it can be nice to be by hand. There often when we're writing now, we're writing on the computer, which is still very powerful. It's very nice when we can see that content on the paper and sort of touch it and have sort of a tactile experience with it, which ultimately brings more authenticity to the piece. So these are my big top 3 editing tips. Uh, Write your whole first draft without stopping, if possible. Read your piece out loud until you're happy with it. And print and edit by hand so that you can have a bit more of an intimate experience with what you've written. Okay, now for my top secret magical writing practice. This writing practice has changed the lives of many people, changed their writing lives. Um, it's a practice that I did somewhat unconsciously for many, many years. And then when I started to teach writing and I needed to deconstruct my own writing practice and see what it was I was doing, I realized I was doing something really special that was giving giving access to a type of writing and a type of flow that otherwise people really struggle to get to. It is, the number one thing I hear from clients is, I open the document and there's the blank page and I don't know how to start, right? Or I think there's no point in what I'm writing, or I have an idea before I open the document and then it's there and suddenly I can't think anymore. So I have a way to fix all that for you. Okay, sorry, I'm setting my timer here. Okay, please now open a blank document on your computer. You can also do this practice by hand on a piece of paper, but it is, I find, easier on the computer. Um, you'll also recognize that this is easier if you're a good typer, but that's okay, even if you're not. Um, even if you're not, this works. So I'm going to trust that you have your document open now. If you are watching later, you can pause to get your document open, but open up that document. You don't need to look at me anymore. You can just look at your blank. So now, looking at that blank document for just a moment there, I want you to close your eyes and just sort of quiet yourself a little bit. I'm going to say a few things and I want you to have some nice long inhales and exhales as I'm speaking here. So often, what happens when we're writing is we're very highly critical of ourselves. We've been taught throughout elementary school and high school and any post secondary that we've had, we've been taught grammar rules and sentence structure. We've seen the red pen marks across our paper. We have been primarily critiqued around our writing and rarely celebrated. This means that, all these years later, no matter how many years ago academia was for you, we still have those voices in our head. The voice that tells us that that's not good enough, that doesn't make sense, I misspelled that word, I can't think of the word I want. And these criticisms are so often what shut down our writing, what interrupt that ever ever aspired to state of flow. Today I'm going to teach you something to try to quiet that critical mind and support that state of flow. Let's take another deep breath all together, breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, exhale 2, 3, 4, pause. Let's do one more. Inhale 2, 3, 4, pause and hold. Exhale 2, 3, 4. At this time, very gently open your eyes so you can place your fingers on the keyboard and then close your eyes again. In this next writing practice, I invite you to put whatever you want on the page, but to do so with your eyes closed. Having our eyes closed quiets that critical mind. It leads to a more embodied and grounded state of writing where I envision our words coming up out of our body and down our arms through our fingertips, totally avoiding the brain that might criticize that they're not good enough. So, with your eyes closed or very softly open, I invite you now to just take a couple minutes to do a bit of journaling of how you feel in this moment, writing with your eyes closed. I will give you a minute and a half, and then I'll bring us back. Enjoy. Finishing up your thought. And we'll start to come back together. As you open your eyes, you're probably going to see a document that has a whole bunch of errors. Uh, you may also open your eyes to a document that remains blank because sometimes the words just don't even land there when our eyes are closed. Both of those are beautiful experiences, practices in imperfection. But this practice of quieting ourselves, quieting our mind, closing our eyes, and taking a few deep breaths, it truly does offer us an opportunity to get closer to that state of flow where writing happens with ease. It also allows us to connect to that authentic writing voice. Now, you may use that just to kind of word vomit sometimes. Another great tip that's not on one of the slides, but if you're sitting down to write and there's a whole bunch of other voices in your head about other things, you got to write that out first. You got to get that out of the way. So you might use eyes closed writing to kind of do that purge of what's going on in your brain. But you can also use the eyes closed writing to write for your audience. And if the eyes closed is tough because you're not a good typer, again, you can have very soft eyes. You can also have eyes that gaze away from the screen. And I know some people who do this, what they do after I teach them this is they cover their screen so that they can see their fingers on the keyboard, but not see the screen. The key is to not see the screen so that your brain doesn't start judging what you've put there. I even use this when I'm editing. If there's a sentence that I'm frustrated with, that I'm not quite figuring it out right, I do the same thing. I slow down, close my eyes, take a few deep breaths, and I rewrite that sentence with my eyes closed. Almost always it comes out just right. So those are all my tips for you. And it's, writing can be challenging and we have to write so much in our business and it doesn't have to be so hard. And that's what really inspired me to dissect my writing practice and teach it to others and to work as a writing coach because I know it doesn't need to be such a stressful experience. If you want to work further and deeper one-on-one with this, I promise I can make you a better, happier writer in 80 minutes. And we look specifically at how to strengthen your strengths and how to get around your weaknesses and make you a more confident and keen writer. And that's it for me today. Oh, I lost you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear
Okay,
you. Yeah.
super. Thank you for that, Parrish. Okay, I don't see a question in there. I wonder if the questions are not showing up. But if anyone does have a question or comment for Parrish, please type it in the chat. I do. I just want to say thank you. I've never experienced eyes closed writing. I've never heard of that before. And it actually makes so much sense because I can see what you mean about like quieting your mind so that what you really want to think about and say is going to come out without judging, mistakes or thoughts of, too much. I don't know, all the things that could be going on. That's really beautiful. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
And I
you're
also,
welcome.
yeah, and I also wanted to say that I loved that you said when you write something out to just kind of do it all and then like as a rough draft or the first draft and then read it out loud because I do often find that if I'm writing anything, it sounds right. The cadence of it sounds right to me in the moment, but there is these moments where I'm pausing and thinking, and possibly because I'm looking and judging and all that kind of stuff. And if I were to read it out loud, it might not it might seem very disconnected or like long run-on kind of things or disjointed. So that was a really good tip as well. Thank you for that.
Yeah, reading it out loud it allows you to hear it a bit more the way your reader is going to hear it, because we know the way we want it to be in our head, but then we go to speak it out loud and it's like, oh yeah, like I really need to give my reader like a pause there. I have said too much,
Mhm.
or that isn't quite the right word, and it doesn't, doesn't end the sentence the way I want it to. It's a really nice way to truly feel the tone and the cadence of what you've written.
Mhm. Very good.
Mhm.
Okay, so if we don't have any other comments or questions, I will say thank you for joining us today, everyone. Thank you, Parrish, so much. And if you're looking for more information, go into the FemCity website if you want some more information. You can also find Parrish in the directory, or look here on our screen. You can reach out to her on her website as well. Parrish, also, are you on social medias where people can find you too? Is that
Yep,
good?
you can find me at Parrish Wilson, on Instagram. And my Facebook page is Parrish Wilson Creative. So either of those. Yeah.
Awesome. So if you want to hear more or learn more, reach out to Parrish there too. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.